All right, there we go. Welcome everybody to another episode of our Puget Systems Podcast Live Q&A show. I love that. Well, actually, I think I'm thinking of dropping the podcast part. I think it'll just be the Puget Systems Live Q&A show going forward.
I like
we do have the audio that I rip out and put onto Anchor and stuff, but yeah, so
mostly video.
Yeah, right. And with our extravaganza next week, it's less of a podcast and more of a live stream Q&A thing. So welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been quite a little bit. We had announced that we were on a bit of a hiatus until the 18th, but with the release of Windows 11, we thought we'd sneak in a little sneaky on you, and we brought in Matt Bach, our senior labs technician, and Chad Warmhoven. He is Support Tech lead Support Tech.
Nope,
I'm unsure.
Just support technician. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I do a lot of the article content as well. So.
Yeah. Actually, if you've read any of our support guides recently, it is probably Chad who wrote those ones. Mm-hmm. So welcome everybody, and welcome to the audience as well. I guess we'll just kind of dive right into it. Where are we at with Windows 11? It came out, I think the official release was October 5th. Yeah.
It was a week ago.
Yeah. So what's our official stance?
It's not ready.
Second.
I mean, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, it feels like it's still in beta. I mean, part of this is kind of what you get when you have an open beta that's available to everybody and anyone can install it. That like launch date isn't as big of a deal as it was back in the day when that's when you would get a physical media and you could do stuff. Right. So part of it's just that, it's not as big of a deal. And in a lot of ways, I feel like Windows 11, it's not a major. It almost feels like a reskin. It's like a reskin with some extra features. But even with that, like I've heard of some weird problems. I've encountered a few weird things myself, and it feels like it's taking a while for things to be like official. I deal with a lot with like the Adobe ecosystem, and like Photoshop and Lightroom have official Windows 11 support, but Premiere Pro and After Effects don't. And I actually ran into a problem, and I think the official response is, well, Windows 11 is not supported. Like, okay, great, okay.
Super.
Yeah.
Guess I won't even bother then. Yeah, it's a lot the same in support. Until we fully qualify it for all of our hardware, we're in the same boat. We're just not fully supporting it. And when we are running into a lot of the same kind of issues where, stuff's not necessarily terribly performing or not running at all, it's just a bit buggy. We have a decent number of applications that aren't launching correctly or are launching and then not working correctly. So it's enough of a headache that from a support standpoint, we really are vehemently opposed to installing it at the moment. Thankfully, a lot of our customers seem to be taking our advice and not actually performing the upgrade yet. So
that's nice.
Yeah. Because we did a bunch of performance testing. So if you go on our website, you go to our articles. I think the top 3 right now are Windows 11 performance with different kinds of applications. And performance was weird. In fact, here I think I can bring it up on a shared screen. Just might as well dive right into this side of things. But it was strange. I actually started at the beginning. So like I mostly I'm like Adobe stuff. And here I can make it even bigger. And like it was really weird. Like in Premiere Pro example, a lot of them just saw a small performance drop, and then these higher core count CPUs saw a huge performance drop. And my guess with that is, well, one, again, Premiere Pro is not officially supported, so who knows? But also, that's where you drop over into needing to use multiple logical processor groups when you cross the 32 core threshold. And so I'm guessing there's some weird issue with that. I don't know, something weird. And then like After Effects was kind of the opposite, where a lot of things saw performance drop, a few things saw performance gain. And then the 38 core is a really weird CPU. 38 cores is really odd. But it saw a massive performance gain. So it's like, okay, that's weird. It's kind of opposite. And then Resolve just saw mostly the same. Again, that 38 core, though, saw a little bit of a performance gain. But everything else, like it's like 5%. So it's like, margin of error. And I know Kelly did, do I have it on here? Kelly did the same thing for rendering and Unreal Engine. Yeah, and I think he saw basically it's just like minor differences. Yeah, like not much. So even from like a performance standpoint, it doesn't feel like there is much of a reason to push for Windows 11. And I feel like that's one of the big reasons why people upgrade to new OSs is, I mean, there's the eye candy, and some people are going to love the eye candy, but it's like performance and stability. And if stability is not there yet, because a lot of things aren't officially supported, and if performance isn't there, probably because things aren't officially supported, why?
Well, I wonder, so ahead of all of this, it seemed like this whole Windows 11 isn't really an operating system, like a new operating system. It seems more like a feature update that they're just calling and then putting like a new number on it. And so I wonder what is changing really under the hood that might be doing this? Because it didn't seem from what they had said ahead of time that there was really significant changes happening.
On the back end, they're not seeing all that much as far as changes go. You're right. It's all surface level changes. So it is pretty interesting. One thing that, a lot of Windows aficionados will remember is when they announced Windows 10, they said this will be the last Windows version that we'll ever release. And we will just continually update. And so it was interesting when they, rebranded and now started calling it Windows 11. But as time passes, we see more and more that it is still the Windows 10 kernel. It is still the Windows 10 core. We're just seeing a complete reskin, a visual redesign, and stuff like the logos and the icons, rounded corners, the centered taskbar. I mean, all that kind of stuff is just so minor and has no real impact on the way the operating system works. But it's going to impact how your workflow operates, how you move around, how you access the applications that, will take some getting used to, especially. So but it is really a reskin.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing that supposedly they did, and I'm not sure how deep Microsoft has gotten into this. I've only kind of seen the various articles that have gone out, is they're supposed to be updating how the scheduler works, like how, you run an application, like how it goes to one core versus another and all that kind of jazz. Yeah. So it might be that there's just, that is still rough, because that's probably the biggest change I've heard of under the hood is the thread scheduling stuff. And like, I think it's good. I think they have to do that because, already, like there's the Alder Lake stuff with the power cores and efficiency cores. There's going to be that stuff, but already we have to deal with like turbo boosts and turbo boost 3.0 on Intel CPUs, where there's specific cores that can turbo higher, so you want to use them first, and having the OS know to use those cores. And how does it know if, like, in this case we've got StreamYard running, I've got a virtual machine for Windows 11 because I'm not installing on my system yet, virtual machine for Windows 11, like how does it know what to prioritize? And so I think that might be some of this like performance stuff we're seeing, and maybe even some of the stability stuff is, these apps might need something in the background to really be able to take advantage of this new stuff. And if they're not, it could be just causing problems. I mean, I'm not that deep of a developer, so I can't say. That's just my guess.
Yeah.
But a true implementation of that would be beneficial, especially if the application developers are supporting that and utilizing it correctly. Yeah. Which has not happened yet, as far as I know.
Yeah, but I feel like it's similar to the things that apps have gone through fairly recently with like GPU acceleration. Like NVIDIA puts in a lot of work for like CUDA, and then people start to use it, and it's rough for a little bit. Sometimes like it's not even faster. But nowadays, like we're looking at things as like, oh no, why would you get like a more powerful CPU? You just get a GPU and it's 20 times faster for some stuff. So we're at that point now. So it might be something like that where it's a little rocky, and I wish they would have finished it, making the rockiness go away when it was in beta.
Right.
But,
of course.
Yeah.
But when you don't have a test, software test team anymore.
Yeah, seriously.
That's why it was a public beta. That's your software test team.
That's your software test team. Yeah, great. Well, did you download the insiders builds and stuff beforehand, before the release? Not the leaked one, but the actual insider builds.
Not much before. We did all of our testing like 2 days before release. So it was essentially the same build, and that's the earliest one I personally was using. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I downloaded. I mean, as soon as it was leaked, I went to Microsoft and they concurrently released the dev and the beta channels. And then a week later, they released the actual release channel. And it was interesting because it really wasn't as unstable and buggy as I expected it to be. It was much more polished at that time. And obviously there weren't as many people using it, so there weren't as many people identifying issues. But I don't know if the release versions changed so dramatically, but it does seem like it's a lot buggier now.
Huh. Yeah, that's weird. I did try to upgrade my work from home, my NUC, and it didn't work out. It said restart to install, and it rebooted, and it just nothing. It just sat on a blank screen. I had to hold the button down to turn the machine off, come back, and then it said, "Oh, we're undoing all the changes that we did." And
oh, interesting.
Right, okay. And I checked first, like their little tool and stuff said, "Yep, you're good to go," which makes sense. My NUC is powered by a Xeon and stuff, so it's fine. But I thought that was a little interesting, so I might take some time to fiddle, and I don't want to do a fresh install because that's silly. I don't do that.
Yeah. The health
I always do a fresh install.
Man, I mean, we always recommend it.
And the nerd in me is like, that's what you should do, but at the same time, I'm like, but I have all my stuff. Yeah.
It's not that hard to get all that stuff back. The health check tool is interesting because it will often report that everything's good, and then it will fail the upgrade process. We've heard of that happening. So I don't know that it is actually failing any of those points and just not reporting it. I think that's unlikely. I think what's more likely is that it's just a bad install, kind of like the way Windows updates will poorly install every once in a while and it'll have to roll itself back. So I have heard that, performing a clean install does resolve that issue, Houston, as well as other people have had luck with just performing the upgrade again. So you might get lucky. But I do recommend a clean install.
Yeah. Which, of course, if I get around to that part. So, that's kind of cool. I'm curious though, Chad. I know officially we recommend wait, of course, and that's the case not just with a major release like this, but just because we've had issues with like feature updates too, where now your audio drivers don't work or things like that. We're always trying to kind of that wait and see sort of method. But some people will kind of sneak it in there and do their own thing. Has there been anything that stands out as weird going on? Any particular thing that's going wrong?
Nothing huge once the update's done. We haven't heard too much on that. We've had a few where people have run into issues updating the way you did, or even the update completed successfully, and then the next restart, they're seeing a black screen, or they're seeing, there's just a few little things. But honestly, most of our customers are not updating right now. So most of the people that I interact with are, they're not encountering issues because they're still on 10. So it's hard to say. As things change, and as, especially once we start to support it, then we'll start to see more of the issues, but I'm hoping that by the time we're supporting it, a lot of those issues have kind of worked out.
Yeah, I can tell you from just like what I've heard in the various communities. Again, I mostly focus in like content creation areas, but performance, a few weird performance bugs has been one, and oddly enough, audio issues. I've had some people who they have like a USB DAC, and after they've moved up to Windows 11, they're getting what sounds like electrical interference. Which you shouldn't be getting that with a USB DAC, and why is it only Windows 11? So it must be some weird driver thing.
Interesting.
On that note, the performance that you mentioned, the AMD one is the typical complaint that we're seeing, and we're able to reproduce it in support as well. The AMDs do have a lesser performance with Windows 11 with the exact same workload.
Yeah, and for people not familiar with that one, it's basically is that a scheduling issue? I forget what is actually the cause, but it's been acknowledged by AMD. They say it's going to be fixed in an upcoming Windows update. So at least that one's been officially acknowledged, and it'll be coming and it'll get fixed. it just feels like this Windows 11 stuff has been not like one major issue, except for like that one maybe, but it's just been a lot of weird random things. And honestly, sometimes it's hard to filter out what is actually Windows 11 and what is people didn't do things properly. Like some of this audio stuff, maybe they didn't install the audio drivers afterwards and they're just using the built-in Windows ones, and like ideally those would work, but who knows. So that's the hard thing with something like this, where you're having the masses are doing something, they might be doing it in a vacuum, and there might be just something that they're not doing properly. Like maybe it's trying to bring over some application because they were doing an upgrade, and that application isn't Windows 11 compatible, so it causes issues.
Yikes.
Weird. Yeah, one recommendation that we always push is making sure that whatever device you're using has the Windows 11 drivers. So on that note, like, with the DACs, if they're running into issues and there's no Windows 11 driver, that easily explains that. But you're right, the pinpoint if they are Windows 11 specific or if it is just something with that device.
Yeah.
If we can, because I feel like we've been ripping on it a whole lot. Maybe point out some of the things I like about Windows 11.
Sure.
Yep.
So here, I'll give you my really, I really only have like one.
I have a few. So
okay. If you've got a few, because I haven't used it a ton, so this is really just like my initial kind of things I've like. You mind switching to that screen share thingy?
We'll do this side by side.
Yeah, there we go. So again, this is just a virtual machine. That's why I've got this like thing at the top. But one of the things I really like is the new or improved, I guess, Windows snapping. So before you could snap, left, right, that kind of jazz. But now if you hover over this, which is, usually the maximize, it gives you so many more options. And I love these things. Like you can actually do, I'm going to put this here, and then I want my, calendar over here. And like, I also want to go to Hawaii, whatever. I just opened up some random things here.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's really nice here, let me kind of like separate these out somewhat. So now I've got lots of multiple windows. I'm, on this guy. Let's actually go ahead and make a 2x2. I probably should have done this ahead of time. But,
that's good. Showing us how it works.
Put file explorer there, because one of the other things I really like. Yeah, that's true. Seeing it is they group it now. So if I go to like my Chrome, it actually has groups, so you can go back and forth between entire groups, which is really nice, because otherwise, like, you're having to like reopen and re-snap things.
Yeah,
and it's whichever group you have that like is this. And so this calendar is open by itself, or I can open it as a part of the group that I had made, or a file explorer. I can just go right back to that whole group.
That's cool.
I think that's really handy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use that all the time, so I really like that. I like this improvement. I know there's some like third-party apps you can get that do similar.
Yes,
but just having these presets, because I especially for like people with ultra-wides that seem like they're super popular now. Mm-hmm. This like triple is going to be really nice.
I like that you can pick where it's going to go from that menu. That's really neat. I saw too, because while I'm here in the office, I have one vertical monitor that I don't normally do, and it's always bothered me that I couldn't do top and bottom in portrait mode split. And
I still wish they had that.
I don't
think there is like a top and bottom.
No, it is. If you have it, I just recently saw that.
Oh, it does?
In Windows 11, it'll do top and bottom split in portrait mode. Oh, and it looks like it was Chad.
Oh, wow.
I hope Chad comes back.
It'll do top and bottom. I kind of want to see if I can like reproduce that here.
That'd be cool.
This is just a virtual machine, but maybe I can trick it into thinking it's a vertical monitor.
And I heard, this was prior to the release, I heard. Oh, that's great.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing.
I heard as well that it will remember better, or because I have a KVM at home, and when I switch back and forth, I have to constantly put Windows back onto my other monitor. They'll all try to go back to the primary, and I've heard that with Windows 11 they will it'll remember where your windows are supposed to be.
I see. That's awesome. Like,
yeah,
that is such like it's a small thing, but I had that exact same issue with a vertical screen. Yeah, for a while I was running it, and I wanted to do, I think it was Slack on the top half, and just like my file explorer on the bottom half.
Right.
And every single time I had to like manually drag it over there and resize it. I ended up making a script that does the auto resizing of the windows for me. But it's like I had to do that. Now it's just I had no idea about that vertical thing.
I'm
That
excited.
is really cool.
Yeah, I like that a lot. So let's see. We have some questions here. SRO Digital on YouTube. One of the items that frustrates the heck out of me is the poor transfer rates Windows achieves when moving files from one location or device to another. Do you ever test those aspects at all?
I've never really experienced that all too much. The only time I've had something like that happen is when there was like a throttling going on. I remember I had that, or we had that kind of when we first had new NVMe drives, when NVMe first released. They would get full speed for like 10 seconds, and then they would slow way down.
Because they get hot.
I've experienced something like that. Otherwise, it's pretty much, I've always had basically copying at the same speed as the drive. I mean, because you can't copy at full read and write speed at the same time. It kind of has to meet somewhere in the middle.
Right. Well, because it can only do one or the other, right?
Yeah.
Can't do it both at the same time.
Yeah. There are times, though, that I move to third-party utilities. The one I tend to go back to is called TerraCopy. I haven't actually used it in a while. But one of the things I always hate about the Windows stuff is if something breaks, like if a file can't copy for whatever reason, it just like screws everything up. TerraCopy will actually do it, and it'll just log anything that had a problem, and you can mess with it later. It doesn't like cancel the entire copy. So that's why I love TerraCopy.
That is cool.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Eric Lacasse on YouTube. This might be a little outside our purview, but what's the status of drivers for regular office hardware like scanners, printers, faxes, and all-in-one printer machines? Any news?
What's the status of those for any OS?
Let's hope it's not like a Vista thing.
Yep. It really depends on the product. I mean, we're seeing a lot of manufacturers come out with drivers real early on that are great and real stable. So it really is dependent on the manufacturer. Some manufacturers are on top of it. Others are taking their time.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah. I remember there was some printer I had to deal with. I think it was with my mother-in-law or something. And it was the latest drivers it had was Windows 7, I think. But it was something that was launched like 3 years ago. It's like, why don't you have anything to her? So printers.
Why didn't you concurrently release drivers with the current OS?
Yeah.
Definitely.
As an aside, how come wireless printers are so janky? Like it is always a source of irritation to, I think, anybody who's ever done any sort of IT support. Wireless printers,
fair question,
and printers in general.
Yeah,
WTF?
The Spooler Service. I feel like the Spooler Service has been just a nightmare since Windows XP, and I mean, Windows 98 and ME had a really stable Spooler Service, and they relied on the manufacturer's drivers almost entirely. And then XP decided to build their own, and Microsoft's been doing it since. And so now you have this spooler, this driver that Microsoft is like, oh, I know the best way to handle it, and in reality, it just doesn't. So yeah, I don't know. Go back to let the manufacturers handle it.
Another one from YouTube from Drone Video. Have you seen Windows 10 Pro for workstations being properly upgraded to Windows 11 Pro for workstations?
I haven't done anything with it. Windows 10 for workstations, we don't really use all that often because you really only need it if you need, massive amounts of RAM or like more than 2 physical CPUs, which we never do anymore.
Yeah, we don't do quad.
It's the 2 physical CPUs, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I know there's some other features, aren't there some like storage space things, and there are some other features, but we just don't end up using it all that often, even though we sell workstations. I would imagine it shouldn't be all that much different from the normal Windows 10 to Windows 11 upgrades, though, because again, it's just a few extra features. They unlock a few things, and that should be it. So I wouldn't anticipate there's any issues.
Yeah. And here's an interesting one. Eric Lacoste also has a question about any issues with. Is there some issues with Java with Windows 11? What about Visual Studio?
I've definitely heard of issues with Visual Studio, and I haven't encountered anything myself, but I haven't used it a whole lot. Java, on the other hand, I haven't seen any major problems with or any reports of major problems. Have you?
I wouldn't think so.
No, I do know. I think Kelly was having some issues with Visual Studio with Windows 11 because normally as part of Unreal, he does Visual Studio testing. And I saw that's not in his his article.
Oh,
Yeah,
for
he didn't
like
include
code
it.
compiling, right?
Oh wait, no. It is okay. It's a combination of Visual Studio. So he at least used it in his testing. So I was just looking. So yeah, so this score is in part Visual Studio 2019. It looks like so he at least was able to use it. But I mean, that's just basically just doing a compile. So it's not super intensive in anything.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's intensive, but it's not like using all aspects of Visual Studio.
Mhm.
So I haven't heard anything, but also, I mean, that's just Visual Studio Windows 11. You just see, because I bet
it would be fine.
you would think
Microsoft
surprise.
releases it. Yeah, they have so many different departments over there, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I even noticed a few things in Windows 11 when I was playing around with it, where like some Windows, there's just different behavior in different areas. Like with File Explorer.
Mm-hmm.
Here, you want to bring it? Just switch it again. Whatever. I noticed some inconsistent things. So remember how I was showing, like, if you mouse over this does this. At first, I didn't realize that was mouse over. I thought it was a right click because when I was right clicking on here, it was doing it. But then when I went to Chrome, if I right clicked, it didn't do anything, and now it's not coming up at all. So I thought like some things were just broken, but no, it turns out like I guess I just wasn't doing it right. But like even within like the App Store behaved differently than App Store. If you right click, it brings up the old, the normal old menu.
Yeah.
So that's like even within the base Windows 11 stuff, it's inconsistent. So I wouldn't be surprised if yes, there might be some issues with Visual Studio, even though it's still Microsoft. Because like if they can't even get that consistent. So I would still wait. I mean, if you're using Visual Studio, I would wait. I'm not upgrading my system probably for at least 2 months. No, we upgraded the systems in our labs department where we do like all the hardware testing, but that's kind of because we kind of have to. Like, maybe. I mean, we're still trying to decide like if we're going to do any testing right now. Do we do it on Windows 11 because we saw weird performance things, or do we do it on Windows 10? Like, what's the actual more correct and accurate for people right now?
Yeah. Once we see the actual performance issues fixed and resolved, maybe then we perform the testing. We've been installing Windows 11 just randomly in support throughout. A couple people have it on their systems, personal, but not their work, or vice versa. So it's just we'll see.
Yeah.
Let's see. John Meeks on YouTube asks, I am disabled. Does 11 have anything new in the accessibility area? Do you guys know?
So there's a couple things with the widgets that added some access or that connect to the accessibility functions. But I don't know of anything specifically new in accessibility.
Okay. Wow, widgets are still a thing?
Yeah.
They're pushing it, man. It feels like Windows 8 again to me.
Yeah, that's interesting. Man, I haven't.
I will say I like the way that they improved it. It's not quite so invasive, and if they can nail down, third-party APIs and get them functional and useful, I see a lot of potential.
Is that another thing that they're kind of? I'm not going to say copying, but like taking some cues from like Mac OS. I have a MacBook, but like I'm not a huge Mac guy. Chad, are you more of a Mac person? I forget.
I use both. I have a MacBook sitting right here, and I do use it regularly, but I'm not like, hardcore Mac OS or bust. So.
Yeah, but aren't widgets? My understanding is like widgets are a little bit bigger of the deal in Mac OS, but that might be a complete misunderstanding of the whole Mac OS ecosystem. On my
when Mac OS first launched widgets, I definitely used them because there was this whole page dedicated to them. You would swipe around and you would get to this widget specific page, and they had a bunch of different widgets that were built into the OS and were very useful, or seemed so. Over the years, I've stopped using them. There's just other tools that I use, so I don't engage in the widgets. I will say that like the news and my personal photo streams and that kind of personal stuff, the widgets do seem to kind of grab my attention. There's one particular one it will show me a shared like what photos have been shared with me this week. And so it's just this little widget that pops up and it's like, hey, click me. And I end up usually clicking on that one because it's I don't know, it's enticing. But no, they're not a huge part of the ecosystem in my mind.
Okay. Gotcha. So yeah, so that Windows is just trying to push that because there was that caught my eye with Windows 10 or Windows 11, and then the center taskbar, obviously.
Oh god,
is like
that's interesting.
That's going to be like the biggest controversy. I'm sure.
Is there no more start button?
There is, and you can change it. It's just right-click taskbar, and you can say make it left instead of center.
Left align.
It's super easy to change.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But it's just interesting that they decided to move it to the middle. I mean, I wonder if part of it is I think Apple's kind of gone this way where they're trying to kind of bring together the desktop and the mobile experience, especially because like with Apple, they have the iPad. That's kind of a mix already.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if Windows is trying to kind of start doing the same thing. It does feel like everything is starting to feel more like a mobile OS, like from a UI standpoint. I don't know if that's just because like desktop was so, dug into their ways, and then like mobile came along, when, these, all these phones became popular. Oh man, I don't know how long ago it was now, but like, like the first iPhone, like that's where we really got like the whole home screen and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah.
But, and that first Windows phone I had, it was amazing. I absolutely loved it, and it was a total pile of garbage. But I absolutely loved having a Windows OS on my, it was all tiles. There was no home screen or anything. It was just those scrolling tiles, like Windows 8 or 8.1. And it just, I absolutely loved it. It was a great device, but it was not... It was not stable. It was not reliable. Take it out of your pocket to answer a phone call to reboot. Like it just was not usable.
Yeah, that's
cool
too bad. Yeah, I definitely agree though that we're seeing more and more a convergence of like mobile usability with like desktop power and I when I first started getting into iOS programming many years ago, I saw the writing on the wall then that Apple was pushing very much to combine those experiences. With their what do they call it? Their human interface design framework or something like that. They have like a set of rules of how your apps are supposed to look, and it was definitely spreading all the way across into Mac OS as well.
Well, and now Windows 11, one of the other things they're doing is you can run Android apps.
Yep.
I don't know if it's actually in Windows 11 now.
I don't think it is.
I haven't, but I know
don't think it is because I've tried.
Yeah, but like I'm assuming it's supposed to like sync then. So if you have like the same app on your phone and on your desktop, it should like sync together. Because if so, that's a big deal. Because really I mean, cool. one of the big things I know people in the Mac ecosystem love is how everything is all synced together, like their phone, their tablet, their computer. And if this is Microsoft's first step to that. It's basically going to turn it into the Apple ecosystem and then the Windows Android ecosystem. It's going to segment them even more. But, just having that option, I think, will be really good. I think that's one of the things that the PC side lacks right now is being able to move between, all of your different devices. So I'm excited for that. Plus, it means all those Android-only games, we can all start playing.
That'll be cool. Yeah. Oh, man. I think because I've heard that a lot with iOS users is like I think like the biggest thing is just messages, iMessage across everything. Same kind of deal though. If I could get the same experience, I think that'd be really neat. I do have one question.
It's the whole.
Are they making it harder to find? Like, did they hide the device manager again? That kind of thing.
I don't think so.
Is it any more difficult to find things?
How do you normally find it?
Change? Well, I just Windows key device manager now.
No, that still works.
It used to be that I could just right click on my computer, go to properties, and there was a button for device manager. And
so the way I go is you right click on the start button and then device manager is right there.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yep. Same.
That's good.
Like most of the things that you want as far as like, but like most of the things you want as far as like power user kind of things are in there. You can get like device manager, network stuff, disk management. Now they're pushing Windows Terminal rather than command line. It's basically the same thing, but it gives you access to PowerShell and command line and the WSL stuff, maybe.
Ooh, that'll be cool.
Can't remember. But okay, so Chad, you mentioned something earlier. I want to circle back because I want to hear. You said you had a couple of things that you liked about Windows 11. I'm curious what those are. Sure.
So, for one, Cortana kind of being gone. She's not completely gone, but she has her own dedicated application now. So it's not quite as invasive. It's also not necessarily tracking as many things unless you tell it to. So instead of previously in Windows 10, the default for Cortana was just listen to everything and look at everything and read everything. Now you actually have to tell her to do all that stuff, which I really appreciate. And so now there's a dedicated application within Windows 11 that you launch to get to Cortana, cool. Which I think from a privacy standpoint is really beneficial and a good direction to be going in.
Nice.
So have you used Cortana at all? Do you use the search function even?
I always turn it off.
When going to run applications, I will Windows key and then start typing.
That's Cortana.
It's technically the search thing. Yeah,
it is.
But beyond that, no, I don't.
Yeah.
And it's probably, man, I hate keep trying to bring in this back to like Mac and stuff, but now is probably the time for Microsoft to really push on privacy things. I feel like, because that's something that like Apple is in the news a lot right now with privacy concerns. And if Windows can use now to make the flip of, hey, now Windows is the private OS, it'll be weird.
That's going to be hard to overcome.
That would be hard to
it is for
sure, hard to sell.
Yeah.
Oh, but no, I mean, absolutely. But if any time's the time, now's the time.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And they are definitely, with the Cortana change, it feels like they're making the effort. So if they can keep that ball rolling. Yeah.
And the requirement for TPM, which is a hardware encryption sort of thing. And like, we're looking out for you. We're trying to we might have to drag you kicking and screaming, but we're going to get you to be a bit more secure in your system.
Yeah.
So. What's funny about that though is if you go to the how to install Windows 11 and you go down, they actually have a guide for how to bypass the TPM. In the official ways to install Windows 11 doc. I mean, they have big warnings saying hey, don't do this. It's probably because there's all these other guides out there already. So they figure, hey, let's put this in an official spot where we can put a big warning on it.
Yeah.
So that hopefully that becomes the first search result. So, someone's searching for how to bypass TPM, they at least get a warning rather than some guy, on some forum saying oh yeah, there's no reason to have TPM. It's fine. Just do it. So I think it's actually the right approach to go ahead and put the workarounds on your own official documentation so that you can, put
it's
big asterisks.
We don't recommend it, but you might do this anyway. So
yeah.
Like the Steam Deck teardown video.
Well, honestly, don't we have a support guide on how to install Windows 11? Right?
Not yet. We have not published it yet.
Okay.
Because we have not officially qualified it for our builds. Then we do not officially support it, and so until we do, we're not going to be advising that anyone install it. And so the articles are.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, they're ready, but they're not live.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I see. The ones that are up are preparing from Windows 11, and here's some of the new features. Yeah, okay. But we also do have an FAQ and yeah. Which in some ways is kind of what they're doing with that whole TPM bypass.
Totally.
Providing information and then putting a big asterisk and a warning. So I think it's the right approach. I think ignoring things is the wrong way to handle it, and acknowledging it and giving the right warnings, I think, is the right way.
Yeah.
So back to things that I like. Honestly, I appreciate the new logo, the icons, the rounded corners, that kind of stuff. I like the redesign, albeit it's not, dramatic and it doesn't necessarily help our performance. But I appreciate that they took the time to make it look elegant and to kind of unify it across all their different mobile devices and everything. I definitely appreciate that. Also, the Windows tone is back when you power up the machine, which I am absolutely in love with. So they dropped that in Windows 7, I want to say, or Vista maybe. They might have dropped it in Vista. And So like when you power on the machine and you hear the boom, yeah, that's Bach. So
that one's back. Okay.
Wow. I didn't. I honestly hadn't heard it since XP because I don't have speakers anymore. So that's interesting.
Well,
don't turn your headphones on.
Most of the ways I've been using it. Yeah. Well, yeah. And I've been mostly using it remote, so I don't have audio.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, that's little things. That's nice.
Exactly. I appreciate that they're making the effort on that kind of stuff. As long as they maintain the security, like you're saying, then I'm all on board.
Yeah.
I mean, UI and like the feel of it and the sound of it, that's important. Like it is absolutely important.
One moment. Sorry about the ding I got from Slack. I don't know if everybody heard that, but I did not.
That's okay. I'll distract you.
I didn't even follow my own advice for live streams by turning off my notification. Oh my gosh, it's a kitty. We're going to have this just became our most popular live stream ever right now. The internet loves cats. That's great.
All right. Well, I will tell you a quick story then.
Okay.
We found this cat while we were on a hike in the national park. She was meowing in this big 40-foot by 40-foot bramble bush and just screaming. We crawled in for like an hour, crawled through it, and finally found her. And she's way too young to have been alone in there. So there was no mom nearby or anything.
Aww. Well,
so she needs a home. Yep.
Yeah. Well, let's see. On Twitch, from Leviathan Prime, do you think motherboard makers will transition to have TPM and enabled by default?
I bet we're going to start seeing BIOSes auto-enabled. Like, yeah.
Yep. We're doing it through the production cycle. As we build the system, we are going through and making sure that the stuff that's needed for Windows 11 compliance is set and enabled. We haven't yet seen any that are already like that when they get to us, though. So it's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, because to take a step back for people who aren't familiar with TPM, it's like an encryption module, and there's two ways you can get it. One is it's built into most CPUs these days. And so in that case, you just have to go into the BIOS and you just enable the CPU TPM. And then the other way is there's actually like physical hardware that you can get for some motherboards. Yeah, it's a little chip, which I think they're like a $15 chip, but they're going for like $50 to $100 right now.
Oh yeah,
people are just like,
they exploded.
Weird. Yeah, which is funny because most people won't even need it. If you're just getting it for Windows 11 compatibility, you should be able to use the CPU TPM. So you have two different ways you can do it, and but I still wouldn't be surprised if as soon as we start seeing motherboards with official Windows 11 support that they have that enabled by default. I would not be surprised, but yeah, I don't think we've seen that yet. BIOS revisions usually take a while to come through.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. NPR 1999 on Twitch was wondering, he says, is Dell, Hewlett Packard, other SIs are they already sending out PCs still installed with Windows 11? And part of university window licenses, will they be updating PCs on campus around the world? I suppose, do we know of any competitors that are shipping Windows 11 pre-installed?
I don't even know. Like, honestly, I haven't even checked because if they are, they shouldn't be.
Yep.
So if they are, I think that's a major knock on them. Like that just means that they decided, yep, we're going to do it, even though most applications out there that people are using like professionally aren't supported. Yeah, bad. So
yeah, I haven't looked into it at all.
I hope they're not.
We very rarely focus on what other companies are doing and then decide to match or change what we're doing in order to match. Like we rarely do that. So I haven't looked into it. I know the support department hasn't looked into it at all.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of a core philosophy of ours. Like it's not uncommon for something to launch and for us not to carry it at first. There's some things that usually we can get enough hands-on time before launch that it's okay. Oftentimes, like CPUs, we can. But others, like sometimes like video cards, OS especially, no, we usually lag on those kind of things by at least a couple of weeks, sometimes a couple of months. Like Windows 11, we might not offer as an option for 2 months. And we're probably going to wait until like Adobe has said that like all of their apps are supported. It's basically all the software packages we target. Until all of those have official Windows 11 support, we're probably not going to sell it or offer it.
Yeah.
So Brett just just said what I was about to say because I love picking on Origin. But Brett says Origin is offering gaming PCs with a Windows 11. I was going to say their website does say free upgrade to Windows 11 when available from Microsoft, and goes on to talk about some features and stuff. But yeah, it looks like
so they're just punting it. They're basically saying once it shows up as a upgrade option in Windows Update,
then it'll go.
Can do it.
Yeah, they're not they're not shipping systems with Windows 11 because they know it's unstable.
Let me see their customized thing. They might be now that it's like officially released. But
it's just like hardware launches, like I was saying. Like the fact that someone launches something on is selling something on launch day isn't always a good thing.
Yeah.
Like
it is listed on there as a by default Windows 11 Home, Windows 11 Pro.
And they focus a lot more on the gaming side, and I feel like the gaming side is probably where things are more stable.
I believe that.
In their defense, like they're targeting different people than we are. So
right, yeah, it makes sense for them. Yes,
we have heard around the support department they've been talking. Some of the guys that have installed on their personal systems and then tried to game. There have been plenty of issues. So I don't know if I would argue that it is probably more stable for gaming. I don't know if it is. But with that said, if it is, and hopefully Origin has done that testing, then yeah, there's no reason why they couldn't. Because that is their focus.
Yeah. This one we might not be able to actually answer. DZ Slacker on YouTube asks, is Adobe saying anything about Windows 11 upgrades?
Yeah. Here, you want to bring back my thing again? Sure. So they have an official page. They have if you just Google Adobe Windows 11 support, can I run my apps, Adobe apps in Windows 11? They have, here's the list of things that have support. It's basically, as far as like professional level stuff, Lightroom Classic, and Photoshop. But then they still say there still may be some performance issues. There still may be some issues with like the UI. and all that kind of stuff. So they're still saying wait until, down here they say we strongly recommend you wait until we have a compatible version. So they're still, even on the ones that they are saying have official support, are being a little, hedging their wording a little bit. So and we did run into a few issues in Premiere Pro specifically, that weird ones that have actually since been fixed, I guess, through a Windows update. We were actually talking with a few of the people on the Premiere Pro dev team, and they're like, hey, have you tried this or this? And I was like, oh, let me double check that. Oh, hey, now it's not working. Now it's not happening anymore. And we're both sitting there in an email like, oh, this is terrible, because when things just start working, that's bad.
Yeah.
Because that means you can't track down what the cause was. So it was probably a Windows update.
It might come back.
But yeah. So there's still, Adobe is still working on it there. I like that they have a page that they are going to update as things have official support. I really like that. We might also hear something at Adobe Max. Is that in a week and a half? 2 weeks? Yeah. Adobe Max is typically where they launch like the major update every year. And Windows 11 might be part of that. Might not. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Usually the app updates are like the first day of Max. Sometimes they're a few days in. So we'll see.
Cool. That'll be cool. Man, it still makes me wonder, like, what did they change really that is making this so weird that some things are breaking
without a big backend change. Yeah.
Right?
Programming's so a pain. And it's the same reason why like the game ready drivers from NVIDIA, like they supposedly only change something that affects one game, and yet, hey, now Premiere Pro won't launch.
Right.
And that's why like we always tell people use the studio drivers, because they actually get validated. And like small changes in programming can have big effects. And like something like, Windows 11, I think there's plenty in there that can cause unknown bugs.
Oh, there's a question from YouTube as well. Peter, it's either Witter or Whiter. I apologize. So with Windows 11, will there be a way to stop your external USB-C M.2 drives from disconnecting? I have them set to not turn off in power and USB, but they both still do. And so I wanted to touch on this one because not just a Windows 11 thing, but this seems maybe a broader issue. And now
I don't think that's a Windows thing.
Yeah, we have seen that.
Drives shouldn't be really. Huh.
No. They shouldn't be disconnecting. We've seen that, and it's usually related to the chipset or the USB drivers. not Windows itself, not a problem with Windows or a lack of function in Windows. There are also a few power settings that you can adjust. As far as not the sleep stuff that he was talking about, that is one thing, but there's also a few power settings within the device manager that you can adjust to try and accommodate that.
Cool.
So that should not be happening. And Windows 11 won't fix that because it should not be happening in 10 either.
So if you're a Puget customer, get in touch with support. We might be able to figure out what's going on there.
Definitely.
Give Chad a call. Here's his phone number. You can text him right now.
So phone number, home address.
Just kidding. Don't do that. Let's see. Any other questions that I may have missed? Not possible to bypass TPM with Windows. You can change the requirement to 1.2. Okay.
I thought it was a full bypass.
I thought with the fresh install you could do it on completely unsupported hardware. It just like complained to you about it during a fresh install.
We're seeing mixed.
Okay.
We're seeing mixed. In some instances, that's 100% the case, but it's not reproducible.
Yeah, he's actually right. The official Windows bypass thing is still says TPM 1.2 is required. Oh, interesting. I totally missed that. Thanks for pointing that out, Peter. Or who was that?
Mr. D. Wilkster. Yeah, right on.
Thank you.
Just in case I missed anything. People have to find out how to change. Yes, that was kind of my question about if they were hiding settings and stuff. Peter Wider was saying sometimes Microsoft does weird things, so people have to find out how to change it back, and those sorts of things.
I had a few things like that. Like I normally, when I want to get to Task Manager, I always go to my taskbar and I right click in Task Manager as one of the options.
Same.
Now on the new start bar, the only thing when you right click on the taskbar is taskbar settings. So I just had to relearn. I've got to go to the start button and right click there, and then how that has everything I normally want.
I know there's a keyboard shortcut.
Yeah, it's Windows Key Escape.
Is that it?
Or is it Windows? I think it's Windows Key Escape, isn't it?
That doesn't seem to do anything.
Now I've got to try it. No, maybe it's Windows Key Pause. No, that's about
backspace. Oh, I just rebooted my computer. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right.
This is how.
And now I've got to Google it because I Control Shift Escape. Oh, okay, I just forgot.
Control Shift Escape. I've never even used that.
Of course, because that's easy to. I mean, it's Task Manager. You shouldn't be.
I always just
Task Manager all the time.
Yeah, I always just right click the taskbar. That's funny.
Yeah, which now you can't do. Now you have to right click the start button.
So early on, Rakesh R on Twitch said he was waiting for AMD CPUs Windows 11 performance loss topic. Is that something?
Yeah, we talked about that at the very beginning of the stream. Yeah. It's basically it's been acknowledged. It's hard to say when we are seeing that or other things because we did a whole bunch of testing and it's kind of across the board. Performance is generally lower, except in a few cases where performance is a lot better. So it's hard to say when it's the AMD thing or when it's just general Windows 11 things. But that issue has been acknowledged by AMD. They say it's supposed to be fixed in a Windows update soon, whenever that is. So I'm sure it will be fixed. And I'm sure there's a number of other things that are similar to that aren't AMD specific, or maybe there are some that are, some that are Intel specific that we just don't know yet. I mean, we saw way too weird of performance that will fix everything. So I'm sure there's other things.
Yeah. Flash Photo on YouTube asks, I heard mentioned of Windows Terminal. Does this replace or complement Windows PowerShell?
I believe it complements. I think if you launch Terminal, it launches PowerShell. Here we go. Yeah, so when you first launch it, it launches like this. So it is PowerShell. And then if you want to add, it's this drop down, then you can select I just actually want to do command prompt, or I want to do an Azure Cloud Shell, which I've never used Azure, so I can't tell you how that works. But I think the big thing is it just gives you tabs, and then you can do PowerShell and command prompts in one spot, which is kind of nice.
Does the File Explorer
side by
have
side
tabs? I know that's kind of that's been a thing I've heard around the.
I don't know.
File Explorer should have tabs.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Hey, I don't think it does. They changed a lot of it, or they changed some of it. So the things I don't like, I'm trying to get to something. They've spaced things out. a lot more. Myself,
Oh,
I
yeah.
love dense information. I know from like a UI and visual standpoint, this is actually better. But I like dense stuff. But so they have spaced out some stuff. I mean, they've changed not a lot in here. I know. I don't know. I know they supposedly have changed things in here to make it better and all that, but I'm not seeing all that much. Chad, you probably spent more time in Windows 11 than I have. Have you noticed anything?
Yeah, no, there's no tabs. Not as far as I've seen. And there are. Somebody said that it does exist. It's out there. There are add-ons or applications that can create that, even natively. Not natively, but even within the native Windows Explorer. But that's not something that's been added in Windows 11. The big changes to the icons and to the spacing and everything is something that I immediately noticed as well. And it's funny, I do prefer it. I like the little bit of spacing that it adds, the buffer in between the different icons. And but I can totally see where you're coming from, especially when you're looking at a large data set and a tremendous amount of different files or something, having them a little more compacted. I can see why you'd want them closer.
Yeah. So this is just my Windows 10, and I'm in dark mode, so it's dark mode versus light. But yeah, it's definitely when I look at them side by side, like, this is ugly. Although that might not be the same exact.
No, I mean, those
more like this. This is probably closer.
Those folder icons are cool looking. I like it.
They are. Yep. They put a lot of effort into making it, much more modern and yeah, I definitely appreciate the effort.
So
I think it's going to be a little bit more user-friendly too, a little bit more intuitive. There's certain things like the menu drop-downs and stuff. And one of the things in Mac OS that was always really nice was when you drop down a menu and then you went to select an item from that drop-down, if you were just a little bit off, up or down toward one of the other options, it would still select the one you were going for correctly. Whereas Windows would just not do anything. If you were in between the two of them, you would just click and nothing would happen. And so they've adjusted that. And so it does feel more like now it's a little more intuitive. Like if I'm not exactly right where I need to be to click, you're still going to get me to the right spot, which is nice.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you use dark mode, Chad?
I do, yeah.
On like Windows, does that look well? Because I noticed with Windows 11, you can't turn on dark mode unless you're activated. And since I'm running on like virtual machines and stuff, I'm not activated.
Same.
Just looks
same.
good.
Yeah, no, I have not activated it yet, so I don't know.
Okay.
I've been using dark mode in Windows 10, but not in 11.
Okay. Yeah, that's one of the things I'm going to want to poke at. It feels like dark mode is kind of a requirement these days.
I like it.
So hopefully all those icons and everything look good in dark mode.
The images I'm seeing look nice. It works.
Oh, yeah,
Windows 11 dark mode.
Windows 11 dark mode.
Yeah.
Now I got to do that.
It looks nice.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, that does look nice.
So James Conkle on YouTube has a good question. Are there any new system backup programs built in?
That's a good question.
I didn't see anything. Yeah, I didn't see anything change. You still have the original backup and restore function, and then and restore points. Yeah, okay. But I didn't see any new dedicated ones.
Because there was the option to like sync to an external drive before, right?
Correct. Yep.
Wasn't there? Is that
that'd still be in there? That'll be File Vault.
File Vault. Maybe I should search from the beginning. Not Fail Vault.
Not File Vault.
Huh. That's not bringing anything up. That's a good question. I'm going to have to look into that.
It's not File Vault.
File history.
File history. There we go. Sorry. And that'll allow you to add an external drive.
It will? Okay. File history. Oh, yeah, there it is. Oh, it's the old UI. So that's not one that they touched in Windows 11. That's one of the things with Windows is it feels like sometimes you come up to one, like disk cleanup is one. I actually still use this, and it's like this has not changed since like Windows XP.
Yeah.
It does its job. It what it needs to do, it does. But man, it does not look like, these new UIs.
That's funny.
Yeah. It's interesting when they don't change those. They did that with the control panel from Windows 7 to 8 to 8.1 to 10. They didn't change the control panel, and then all at once one day they're just like, okay, no more control panel.
Yeah. One thing I have heard, because I had this problem with Windows 10 where you would have to go to 2 different places sometimes to change different settings. Like I was having something with like user account stuff where I had to go to 2 places. And I from what I understand now, they've unified that finally into one spot. So you're actually only in one area.
Yeah. Audio devices versus sound settings.
I don't love the changes that they've made there.
Yeah. That bothers me a lot because like sometimes I want that little window with my audio devices, but it's hard to find sometimes.
It is. Yeah.
The one thing though that with like any settings things that I feel like Windows does do right though is if you open just like start menu and you start typing like roughly what you want, it generally does a pretty good job of pointing you to the right spot.
Like
definitely.
That's one of the reasons. That's why like the whole like layout of things, even when they were in multiple places, it wasn't too bad because 99% of the time, even myself, I just search
type,
whatever I need. I just type and it finds it way faster than I could find it manually.
Nice. Cool. We are almost exactly 1 minute over our hour. So perfect. Right on the dot. Is there any other questions from the audience, comments from you gentlemen? Anything?
Go check out our articles. Go check out the FAQ for Windows 11, as well as there's 3 should I upgrade articles that are listed under the publications page. They look great. Read through whatever you can before you decide.
That Windows FAQ, are you able to post that into all the different chats?
Yeah,
I was just thinking that might be something we might want to do.
Was that a landing?
Just because that one it's a pretty good FAQ, I think.
Was that a landing page or?
No, it's an article.
Oh, regular article. No.
Yeah, it's a regular article.
Yep,
it's
I
about
just
10
liked
deep
it
right
too.
now.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chad.
Yeah, because there's good information on that, and we are maintaining that consistently. We're probably adding right now. We've added one thing every couple of days. We've had to tweak a few things as things have changed, and that's like our central repository for anything that we know about Windows 11. But don't upgrade yet.
Let your main takeaway from today be: don't upgrade.
Yeah, don't do it yet. And if you really, really want to play around with it, install Hyper-V and do it in a virtual machine. And if you can do that, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
If you're not comfortable doing Hyper-V and stuff, you shouldn't install it.
Ouch.
Awesome. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for taking time out of the day to join us and talk about Windows 11. Thank you as well to the audience for joining us today. Normally, we do this every Wednesday around 1 p.m. Pacific, where we do bring in either internal or external experts to talk about different topics and things. Next week, however, is our 2021 live stream extravaganza because NAB show would have been last week. Adobe Max is in a week and a half or so. And so we're going to cram as much all kinds of live streaming content going on from all week next week, starting Monday at 10 a.m. Mark your calendars at 2 streams a day, every day next week. It's going to be a lot.
There's some cool people we're having on too.
Oh man, yeah, we've got Chad, we got just all kinds of cool people. Well, I'm just thinking Ryan Connolly. We've got folks I think we're going to have some folks from Adobe. We've got Chad Ashley. We've got just a lot.
Don't we have some of the guys from Corridor Digital will be on?
Yep, we got some guys from a potpourri from Corridor, a mix of that. Folks like Gary Adcock. We've got some of these names I don't recognize, but they're major players in their spaces. We're going to have Gabby K back, Solomon Jogway, Jonathan Winbush. They're all together on one big stream. And so it's going to be super cool. Tune in all next week. Massive stuff. Great content. Great talking. It's going to be super awesome. Be there or don't. I mean, I'm not the cops.
You're not a great salesman.
No, seriously.
What do you mean? That totally sold me.
It'll be really fun. A lot like this. You guys can ask questions. It'll be roundtable stuff. It'll be really cool. And so be there. It's gonna be great. Thank you again.
Hopefully we'll have a schedule out in the next couple of days, right?
We have a preliminary one actually. We have right here. I think this one. Let me make sure that this is.
Oh no, that is
yeah. We published it. Yep.
Oh, okay.
So there's a few TBD, but for the most part, boom, that's what we've got going on next week. It's going to be awesome. I'd love to see y'all there. And but otherwise, Wednesdays 1 p.m. Pacific, and yeah, we'll see y'all next time.
See you guys.
Bye.